I am Iron Man.
Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today is an exciting build. It is sponsored. Hooray! Thank you Cos-Tools for sponsoring this video. They just recently came out with a couple new tools on their Cos-Tools line, and I thought, why not give them a go and test them out? So I was looking at builds that I could possibly do, and for those of you who've been following for the past month or two, I have been building my own Knights Templar / Iron Man mashup, and currently I have built the pauldrons, the gorget, the helmet, the shield, and I thought, why not throw in the sword while we're at it? And I had this crazy idea to combine like the Infinity Gauntlet with my sword to make it an epic type build. So I kind of used this cheap Excalibur sword that I picked up at Spirit Halloween last Halloween. It's kind of flimsy and not exactly what I want, but I'm going to kind of use it to go off of because it looks very similar to some of the Knights Templar swords. So that's the game plan. Today we are going to build a sword using Cos-Tools and foam, and maybe even crank up that Glowforge for some little spicy detail parts. Let's get to building. So Cos-Tools sent me these new tools, and I thought I would give a quick little unboxing before I started on the build. The new additions to the foam line are the border marker, adjustable angle cutter, and the strip cutter. The border marker allows you to put marks using whatever utensil you choose between 1/4 of an inch to about 7 inches from that edge. The adjustable angle cutter allows you to set angles to several different degrees, 90, 60, 45, 30, and 20. And then the last is the strip cutter. I think I'm probably going to use this one the most because it allows you to cut perfect strips up to like 2.5 inches. Probably going to use that one a lot. So originally I thought about just keeping the blade and changing everything from the crossguard down. I bought these infinity stones on Amazon for a couple of bucks and thought they would work well in this design, and you can push on them and they light up, which is definitely a bonus. To start off, I used the border marker Cos-Tool around the blade onto a sheet of poster board to make my template. I wanted my blade a little thicker than the Excalibur one that I had, so it helps to extend out that pattern. I can already tell that this tool is going to come in handy not only with template making but also with making things even. Here is the blade with the tang added and some extra little instructions, you know, color coded, marks, all that stuff. I also went ahead and divided it up so that I can cut it into pieces to then glue on paper for you guys later. Traced the pattern onto some 6mm What the Foam from Cosplay Apprentice, mark my center line, and cut a channel using the V-groove cutter for the metal rod to glue in. The rod is from a pair of blinds that broke a while back. I'm a pack rat. I actually built a Skyrim shield from the slats of those mini blinds, and I figured that I could probably use this bar at some point to reinforce something, and here it is making an appearance on the sword. I made a couple of passes before I realized I wasn't pushing hard enough on the top of the tool, so I cut off the bottom portion to make way for the new tool, the adjustable angle cutter. I ended up messing up while I was cutting here and got off on one side, so I ended up having to scrap this whole piece you see me currently cutting. You can go much steeper angles with the new tool than their old angle cutters. I think that it was pretty much a 90 or a 45. With this, like I said, you can go 90, 60, 45, 30, and 20 and have it locked in place. They recommend adding some foam core underneath your cutting surface so that when you pull the blade through, it doesn't dull the tip. Lock it into the notches on both sides, bump it against a channel rail, and then just pull through. So I left this in so that you can understand that even though you may make a mistake, you can always try it a different way, which I'll be trying in a different way here in a second. Now I'm ready to glue the rod into the channel, so I super glue in the metal to the foam, and then both sides of the foam are coated with contact cement. The rod is square in shape, which is perfect for this V-groove that I just cut, which means there's no dead space, so I won't have to backfill it with super glue or any of that other mess. One drawback to having a glass top work surface is that it's kind of hard to pound things and make sure that everything's getting a good seal, because you might shatter the top, so I gotta be careful. Once joined, I cut any uneven areas flush and then sand all the edges. So here you see me doing a different technique to put the edge on the blade. Instead of using the adjustable angle cutter, I'm going to use the border marker again and just mark about a ½ inch off the side of the blade to get my angle cut. And then basically I'm just going to pull my box cutter through that area and get it close to the line. When I'm satisfied with the shape of it, I just take a sanding drum and get it to its final point. The crossguard is made up of 6 pieces, 2 full outer parts and 4 smaller inner pieces. These sandwich the blade in between and allow the handle to pass through it. Once they're glued together, you can sand the outside edges to make them flush. For the pommel, I cut out 4 circles in 6mm foam and glued them together. I templated out the size just as a reference if you wanted to make your own and didn't have the circle cutter, but I'm going to use the circle cutter because it makes perfect circles, and there's no way I'm doing that. So once I get them all cut, the middle 2 get a little notch cut out of them so that the handle can slide into the pommel. I did decide to use the Glowforge to cut out some of these details. To test out the size I needed, I just cut out one of the arc reactors I made from the previous build and cut it out. Then I went back onto my computer for about 5 or 6 hours designing each of the little pieces that are going to go on there. Some decorative for the crossguard and lettering for the blade and some details for the pommel that you'll see here in a second. I really do love the Glowforge. Not a sponsor, but it's a super awesome machine. So I designed the crossguard overlay to house the Infinity Stones. I really like the way that the scroll work turned out and how I was able to incorporate an Iron Man face in the middle. For the pommel, one side has a modified arc reactor to allow for an Infinity Stone to fit in it, and the other side has a modified Knights Templar coin to allow for the larger Mind Stone to rest. I also included some fun little Easter eggs, like the crosses that are on the side of my crossguard have I love you 3000 written in Latin in super small text, and then the quotes that's on the blade is from Tony when he's trying to sell like the weapons of mass destruction, I believe. He makes the comment, "Is it better to be feared or respected? I say, is it too much to ask for both?" So I wrote that, I translated it into Latin and then put it on the blade. I think it's a cool little Easter egg of detail. To cut the grip for the handles, I'm going to use this super handy new strip cutter. You set the width you want by turning the knob on the side. It then has a ruler indicator on one side, putting the spacing between on these parallel blades. I slide down the blades out of their safety positions and then push it up against the channel rail to get a nice straight, long, even cut. I struggle with cutting strips perfectly even. Usually they end up tapered on one side slightly, which isn't a big deal for this application, but it could be if I'm trying to butt those ends up together. But this tool will make it a lot quicker and easier. Not a lot of measuring involved. Once it's cut, I just super glue it onto the handle. Most of the cutouts on the sword snugly fit the stones, but I wanted to just give it a little bit more security, so I drilled in some holes on each of the little settings and super glued in a neodymium magnet so that it will catch the metal backing on those gems. That way I don't have to worry about it accidentally falling out when I pretend playing superhero and swing it around like a madman. I did add a couple more panels to cover up layers of stacked EVA in spots and some extra detail strips here and there to stair step some of the transitions down. To match the rest of my armor, I added some faux recessed rivets with my rotary tool and switched over to a stone bit to gouge out some battle damage because of course my cosplay has seen some stuff. Two coats of Plasti-Dip. Not much to show on the paint job really, it's just dry brushing. I used Rub and Buff on all the metallic surfaces and Plat Effects paint on the red handle. Then each got a dry brush technique with an old chip brush. I think I'll probably eventually put some blood splatter on it as well, but I wanted to get the entire cosplay done before I started flinging it. That way the blood splatter kind of matches up and makes sense for why it's on there. Thank you so much to Cos-Tools for continuing to support my channel with sponsored videos. It really does help this channel out a lot. And we are finished. Here is the end result. I think it turned out pretty awesome. I'm pretty happy with it, and it is super sturdy. Like I do a lot, and I hate to have to admit this, I pack a bunch of junk in totes and in storage areas, and eventually I get around to using them for something. That curtain blind metal rod that allowed the deal to spin, I kept it for some reason, which I didn't know at the time that it was going to become part of a sword, but it definitely makes it super sturdy, along with that What the Foam from Cosplay Apprentice, which is already basically like Foam and Warbler had a baby. I think it's a pretty awesome mashup of Infinity Gauntlet, Iron Man, and Knights Templar on this one in particular. The Cos-Tools definitely made the handle wrap a lot easier to build in some of these strips, as well as doing that little marking on the edge. I don't know how Adam Savage and other builders do that little thing where they hold the marker at the perfect angle and just keep it, because every time I try and do it, like, I end up with like zigzag lines all the way down it, but it definitely makes that a little bit easier for you. So maybe you will try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to mash up completely random things that should not go together and somehow magically look like they belong. Yeah. Maybe you'll get some.
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. I want it to be fair, so you take Excalibur. There you go. There you go. And I'll take this one, and we'll do a little sword fight. You ready? Gotcha. That was easy. Did you even try? If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see me continue to make awesome builds like this, please consider joining these awesome people listed here on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community.